I tell people all the time, if there is chaos in your brain, there will be chaos in your life. If you do not have clarity over what you want your life to look like, then other people are puppeteering your life.
I'll have what she's having.
Welcome to another edition of
She Talks Confidence
Podcast.
Welcome back to the She Talks Confidence podcast. This is Tony, your host. I get to have a fantastic guest back that I had in April. It was Brandi Hudson. And in the April show, we talked about a woman's path to true happiness. This one, we're going to get more into building a life that looks like it feels. She's going to get into that. And we're going to talk about self-prioritization. And then maybe if we get a chance to go into the whole corporate thing and how it works with corporate women. But Brandi, so nice to have you back. How are you?
Oh, I'm really grateful to be here today. Thanks for having me, Tony.
Initially, you're from an executive background for people who didn't hear the April show.
Fair.
And gone into the niche of personal growth and development. You have this approach called a B.A.S.E approach, which is basically grounding yourself. And you can talk about that a little bit later to touch back on that. But that's your background. And then you were working with transition and confidence and imposter syndrome and whatnot. You've now refined your message, and I love it. Can you share that and then share what that is?
Yeah. Life is about moving from a place of always worrying, always wishing that it works out, regardless of where you are in the demographics of the world, to moving to a place where your success feels inevitable. And so the work that I do really helps people understand, like, what are the inputs that are necessary so that you can actually build a life that feels good. Because if you're always on this treadmill towards the next thing you're trying to accomplish, then life actually doesn't feel so good. And suddenly you're looking down at your resume or your CV and you're like, man, I've accomplished all of the things that I've ever wanted in my life, but this life doesn't feel that good. And I think when we prioritize how we approach life and how we feel day in and day out, then that's when success becomes inevitable. And that's when we can really step in who we're meant to be in this lifetime.
I think that's a good perspective or a good insight, because you can sit there and have a plan and go through a bunch of different steps. You've climbed the ladder or went vertical or horizontal or whatever the case may be, thinking that success is a certain thing that's tangible at the end, a bigger bank account, another car, whatever the case may be. What's the missing component that makes it to where the life doesn't feel as good as it looks?
I think it is, and I just wrote a Substack about it this week. The Substack is about this idea that people don't actually take inventory of their achievements and start to reframe who they believe they are. So many of us, especially women, especially people of color, we are like trying to make it and we don't know if we will. And then we wake up one day and we've done all the things, but we've never recentered as that person. We still think of ourselves as the little girl who was hoping to get into the good prep school, who wanted to get into a great college, or who wanted to be a first-time manager. And then suddenly you're like, oh, I've actually done these things, but I still identify as the girl who was hoping to have this life. And the work is to really recenter yourself and remind yourself, like, no, I am the person who, against all odds, and who time and time again has actually achieved quite a bit.
That's interesting because that's an identity thing, right?
Right.
And you grow up and you have certain subconscious programs that keep your identity in a very small box. And child trauma or whatever the situation might be. Everybody has that. Even if you went through a good childhood, you all have certain parameters around your subconscious thoughts of your identity.
Yeah.
So when you do have accomplishments, especially because this is the population I work with, overachieving successful women,
Yeah.
especially with that population, they'll start to, even if they look at the CV, even if they continue to do things and branch out and do nonprofit stuff as well, the woman of the year, they move the carrot on themselves all the time because of two reasons. The first reason is conscious that I see. And the conscious reason is that they feel as though they don't deserve it, or they feel like they're an imposter.
Yes.
The second reason is the subconscious reason that they're being brought back into that subconscious identity. of being that prep school girl who
Yeah.
didn't know the answers, who fought a learning disability or something.
Right. And
When
I
you
think oh, go ahead. You
I
go
was
ahead.
just gonna say, when you come up against that with clients, how do you approach it? Because I know you can see that, right?
Yeah.
Because they can't see it, but you can see. How do you get them to see?
Yeah. First and foremost, if you go back a few Substacks before this week's, they come out every Monday.
More Substack.
I wrote this idea that like you actually don't want your work to be your identity,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
like I am actually like my consciousness that is having an awareness of this experience, right? And when I think of that, then I'm not in the muck and mire of that experience. I can
Mhm.
actually more easily guide it and direct it, right? And so
Mhm.
it takes a while to get there. It took me a long time, and it often takes people a long time to get to that place. And
Yeah, it's a
so
lot of work,
what
yeah.
you'll find is that if your identity is your work, it will never be enough because
Mhm.
it's just not the truth of who you are.
Not whatsoever.
You'll always be disconnected. But what we can do is we can use because these humans who are so highly accomplished,
Mhm.
because they are so numbers driven, because they are so data driven, a good step in the right direction is to just have them like really surface the data of their lives. And when they surface that data, then you ask them to step into the person who has achieved all of those goals and dreams and hopes. And then the work is to feel safe in that place.
Oh, love that. The feeling safe is such an operative word,
Yeah.
and it's shifting perspective and it's reframing things in terms of your value, your worth,
Mm.
your intuitive sense of who you are
Who
versus
you-
what you do. It's funny, you just described midlife crisis for guys, right? Because that's what that is. And also empty nesters, I see with my clientele, with women,
Yeah.
because their identity was a mom. And that is not bad because being a mom and identifying as a great mom and doing whatever you need to do to be a great mom is just fantastic. But what happens is that once that goes away, there's a big space. And your
Yeah.
identity now you need to find something.
This whole.
And then
Yeah.
that's what. Now, this actually goes well into the next thing I'd like you to talk about. And the thing that you said that you are focusing on now
Yeah.
is self prioritization.
Yes.
So, can you talk about self prioritization and how that fits in?
You're moving through life, and oftentimes, especially for women, we sit in this space where it is foreign to us to prioritize ourselves
Hmm.
over all else. And I've had clients tell me that's selfish. How can I do that? I don't know how that will work. But what I think is that when we don't prioritize ourselves, and not in a selfish way, right? Not in I'm going to take the last piece of candy or I'm not going to share, but in this place of actually
Yeah.
thinking about what does it take for me to feel fulfilled? How do I align with my purpose? How do I fill my cup? And then from there, really looking to fill other people's cup. It's the old safety rule. Put on your
Put your mask on first,
mask
right?
on. And when you put your mask on first, you are in this place. And I think if you look across society, we have so many people who are trying to make other people happy, even though they are unhappy.
Hmm.
And you cannot do something for someone else that you haven't figured out how to do for yourself. And we have to know that the world isn't zero sum. In a world
Hmm.
where I am the best version of myself, I can absolutely do what's best for others. And I
Hmm.
say this to communities all the time. If I am a woman at an organization and I want more women to be promoted, the best thing I can do is actually to have a seat at the table with the people who decide who gets promoted. Because me like shouting from the back of the room, I don't like the way this company is working. We need to get more women in leadership. That's actually not going to do it. And so
Hmm.
in my lifetime, I've always thought that I lift as I climb, but it is important that you're actually climbing. And
Yeah.
I do think that we don't realize that it's just not possible to do something for other people that we haven't figured out how to do for ourselves.
This is not a learned behavior that we've been taught. It's actually the opposite. In a lot of circumstances, we were taught the absolute opposite: put everybody before you. And if you're a people pleaser, forget about it. In terms of, it's not, yeah.
They're
And
right
that's
now this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. What am I supposed to do? Ignore everybody? What am I supposed to do? I'll look like an idiot, or I'll look like a jerk. I'll be selfish, right? That's the operative word. I have done, the first iteration of my podcast was on like self-help, personal development kind of stuff. I did 5 or 6 shows specifically on not being selfish because it's such a huge thing that people pleasers, and especially my population I work with, women, there's this guilt because they feel as though they're being selfish if they put themselves first. And again, people see things very black and white, right? Yeah. They see it very A or B or whatever. It's either, okay, I'm either selfish or I'm not, right? Yes. Or I put people first. That's not the formula. Have you figured out a good way to explain how to balance those two things?
So I'm a mom and I have a precious little 8-year-old. An example is every morning, my 8-year-old knows the first thing I do when I get up is my morning routine. And he is welcome to join me. So if he wants to put his legs on the wall, if he wants to grab his journal and write, if he wants to say his prayer, if he wants to meditate, we can do that together. But if it's a day that that's not top of mind for him, then I'm going to just need that time to myself. I'm not going to pivot from my routine. And I always tell him when he is a little squirrely about it, which he is much less so now because he's 8. But when he was a littler boy, he would be like, I don't know about this. I just tell him, I will be a better mom for you if I spend this time with myself first.
100%.
Right? Yeah. And so I think that we want to bring people along, right? So it is both and prioritizing myself and loving my son to explain to him. I also believe it's teaching him how I want him to be when he is older. And so now he wakes up. Sometimes he'll, like this morning, he did legs up the wall with me, but then he went back to his room for the rest of the routine and he wanted to read his book. And then afterwards we talked about the book. And so you find these through lines to bring people into your world to help them understand why you're doing it. And when you do that from a place of kindness, then you have a routine that works for everyone involved. And you can do that in the workplace. You can do that at home. You just have to make sure that you're speaking to people and communicating with them.
That's one of the biggest obstacles to making the shift because people are used to how you are now. And you have your tribe around you. You have your corporate tribe around you. And they have expectations of your normal operations, your normal behaviors, your normal reactions. If you all of a sudden go in and say no, or go in a little bit later because you're doing something for yourself, then there's an issue. Bringing people along is such a huge component to this. Yes. And doing it in a sense of kindness and understanding that it's going to help the whole system. Now, the big issue comes from some people in that tribe not being down with that.
Yeah.
That could generally happen.
I think the big issue may not be them not being down with it. It's you not being okay with them not being down with it.
Yeah, then that's the second part.
Because if you're okay with them not being down with it, turns out it's not an issue.
Exactly. In terms of the people pleaser syndrome and the fact that you're putting people in front of you, it means that you care about what they think or what they feel, and you're prioritizing their thoughts and feelings ahead of your own. And so when you start to come in and start to stand up for yourself a little bit and own your space a little bit more, then you might get some pushback. And that's when you have to start. And this comes down to one of the most difficult things to do if you're not used to doing it is saying no.
Yes. I teach people at least once or twice a week that no is a full sentence.
100%.
That we have to explain ourselves. And I will offer to people, when you're looking to change, you are actually going to feel resistance because that's how you prove to yourself that you've changed. And so
Oh, yeah.
that's the way the world works. You're going to have less resistance though once you're actually really clear with yourself that you're doing the right thing. So the more
Mhm.
you embark upon change and you're like dipping your toe in and you're like, I don't know if this boundary thing is for me. Maybe it's going to be upsetting to the apple cart and you're really ruminating about it, then it's going to feel really tricky. You're going to feel a lot of friction. But once we find resolve within ourselves, once we're in pure alignment with ourselves, it's almost as though the floodgates just open up. All resistance starts internally. Once we have pure alignment, we're going to see that the world reflects that back to us.
I love that you just transitioned right into your B.A.S.E thing. Did you do that on purpose?
I didn't. But that's how you know I believe deeply in
Right.
the
But
work
this,
I do.
yeah. Can you explain what your B.A.S.E approach is?
Yes.
Again.
So anytime you have a problem or goal that you're trying to reach, you want to filter it through my B.A.S.E framework. And you can do it with someone like me, or you can do it with a loved one, or you can do it yourself. And really, you want to look at 4 aspects. The first is, what are the beliefs that you have around this situation or issue? And how are those beliefs impacting how you approach it? The A is alignment, which I just talked about. If the thing that you want is to be happy and free, but you are always people pleasing, then those 2 things aren't in alignment. And so, in advance of having whatever you want, if you want to make $1 million, you actually need to feel and be the person who makes $1 million in advance. If you can't see it, maybe you'll still reach it, but it'll be like pushing a boulder up a mountain. And then third, you want to have a lot of self-awareness. So you want to be able to quickly say, oh, that's a belief that's limiting me. That's a belief that's keeping me from getting to where I want to go. So let me get back in alignment with the version of me that I aspire to be. And then the E is the heaviest lift for sure. The E is about emotional resilience. So what has happened to you in your past that is now still helping to frame your future and your present? And how do you think back to those moments and really keep the wisdom of them? Because even if you don't believe it, every single thing that has happened to you has happened for you. And it's the biggest gift when you actually believe that and know that in your soul. But how do you keep the wisdom of all the traumatic, all the stressful, all the worrisome situations that have occurred in your life, and release the dense emotion that have connected to it? So if you still have things in your past that when you talk about them, they make you cry, right?
Most definitely. They're anchors. They're emotional anchors. And
They're
once you
pulling
get
you back to the past.
right. And once you get the emotional anchors off, they'll still be there. That's the way we're programmed. I mean, they'll always be there.
They'll
You might
always
always
be
go
there.
there. But when you go there, you're not going to hook yourself up to the anchor. You're going to
Yeah.
see it and say, oh, yeah, I remember. There it
Oh,
is. It's almost like taking it from the amygdala, from the emotional, and putting it into that prefrontal,
into that prefrontal.
rational, organizational part of your brain, and then using it for how you can use it in the now, in the
Yes,
moment.
exactly. So our work is to be able to talk about the entirety of our life experience in a way that is neutral and or positive.
Well, 100%. This is a lot of work.
This is real work.
It is. It's real work. And I'm sure that that you listening, you've dabbed in this, because you wouldn't be listening to this if you hadn't done a little bit of that. It's a lifelong journey.
It is.
Really,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, that's what you are here to experience. That's the humanity of it all, is to have had these dense and tragic sometimes experiences and to learn to navigate them.
Yeah, 100%. And my sub niche is professional women going through transitions, leadership transitions, and dealing with imposter syndrome, perfectionism, overthinking, rumination, the not good enough type of thing. And I wanted to talk about the self-prioritization that you talked about.
Yes.
In an executive setting for women in leadership positions. How could somebody implement the self-prioritization in that type of a setting?
Yeah, I mean, It all depends on like where they're really struggling. Do they feel like other people are filling up their calendar? Do they feel as though they don't have autonomy to make decisions that help actually drive the business, right? So we want to first seek to understand, where are you really struggling, like creating space for yourself in the workplace. And then the first step is always mapping out exactly how you want it to look. I tell people all the time, if there is chaos in your brain, there will be chaos in your life. If you do not have clarity over what you want your life to look like, then other people are puppeteering your life. You can only become the most powerful creator that you were meant to be by having crystal clear clarity on the vision for the life you aspire to live. And so you want to get really granular with that. And once you know what it should look like, you want to remove everything that is not in service to that. And you can't do it all at once. I don't know your exact situation, but you want to find ways to consistently be putting one step in front of the other to evoke that change that is necessary. And that's where that alignment comes in. You want to have a vision that you are already there. You are already the person who, when you speak up in the boardroom, everyone listens to. You're already the person who, when someone wants to have a meeting with you, they take it very seriously. They ask you, they come super prepared. You are already the person who is able to lead your team exactly the way you want to lead your team. When you know that beyond a shadow of belief, then it will be true. It can't help but be.
Oh, yeah. Your B.A.S.E approach is perfect for women that are transitioning into leadership roles. It's perfect for that.
Yeah.
It's just such a grounding force to have that and go through that process.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, and this is not something that's unknown. Most corporate systems are really male-dominated systems. The system itself is geared more towards men. That being the case, sometimes when women get into those positions, they feel as though they have to sell out to play that game. I've been working with these women for a long time, and the first thing I say is you do not have to, nor should you, because when you do sell out, then you're not operating in integrity, and anybody can see that.
Yeah.
They may not see it like visually, but they'll sense that you're out of integrity.
Yes.
Because you're trying to be somebody that you're not.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that if you have transitioned into a leadership role, you're there for one reason or another, competency and whatnot. Even taking into consideration the fact that you battled yourself with perfectionism and imposter syndrome and rumination, but you're still there. Your unique voice is a very important part of where you're at now. And that's why to ground yourself in the B.A.S.E system would be, and to prioritize yourself, because how many times have you seen young executives getting into middle management or upper management positions that now start working 90 hours a week, just burn themselves to the ground?
Yeah. You said it.
Brandi, again, thanks a ton. Can you throw out where somebody can get a hold of you and what you have to offer?
Yes. I want you all to read my Substack, which is called The Happiest Place.
Wait, you have a Substack?
Isn't that a surprise? And it's Brandi with an I, Hudson. If you ever want to email me, you can email me at brandi@highbrandi.com or go to my website, brandibhudson.com. I'd love to hear from you all. I always take questions and I respond to everyone.
Oh, awesome. And then for me, of course, it's The Confidence Doc. The new stuff in terms of the leadership role, imposter syndrome, the women's transition, executive stuff will be out very soon, and I will let you know. But if you have any questions, you can also get a hold of me. Just shoot me an email, tony@theconfidencedoc.com. You can also go to tonydufresne.com. You can see it in the show notes. I'll put it in the show notes. So hope everything's good, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.